Have you ever been ghosted, shut out, or emotionally iced over by someone you care deeply about and you couldn't figure out why? One day you're connecting, the next, silence. No explanation, no closure, just distance. You try to make sense of it, wondering, did I do something wrong? Are they punishing me? Or do they just not care? I'm Jim Rohn, and in this video, I want to show you a perspective that might shift the way you see avoidant behavior forever. Because sometimes, silence isn't indifference. It's a hidden cry for connection. If you've ever loved someone with an avoidant attachment style, you already know that their silence can feel like abandonment. But here's what most people don't realize. That silence is often a survival strategy, not rejection. It's the only way their nervous system knows how to protect itself when closeness starts to feel dangerous. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through 4 powerful signs that the avoidant person in your life may actually be craving connection, even as they push you away. I'll break down why they withdraw, how they watch you from afar, why they sabotage good moments, and how they sometimes create drama just to feel close. This isn't about making excuses for hurtful behavior. It's about helping you stop internalizing it. Because the moment you realize their silence says more about their fear than your worth is the moment you take your power back. If you're tired of overanalyzing every message, waiting for their return, or questioning your value, this video is for you. Stick around until the end, and I'll give you not only the signs, but also the secure lens to navigate them from a place of self-worth. And if you want more insight on secure attachment, boundaries, and how to stop abandoning yourself in love, hit subscribe, leave a comment below, and let's keep growing together. Let's dive in. Let's talk about something that happens all too often when you're in a relationship with someone who has an avoidant attachment style. They go silent. You don't know what triggered it. One day things feel warm, connected, maybe even hopeful, and the next, they've shut down. They stop responding to texts, avoid meaningful conversations, or emotionally check out. It hurts, and let's be honest, it's incredibly confusing. The first instinct for many people is to assume rejection. They're not interested, they don't care, I did something wrong. But here's what I want you to hear clearly. Avoidant silence isn't always rejection. In many cases, it's actually a defense, a way to feel safe when closeness feels threatening. This might sound backwards, but to an avoidant person, your warmth, your affection, your emotional availability can feel dangerous. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because their nervous system has been shaped by early emotional inconsistency. When they were children, love may have come in unpredictable doses. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. Sometimes needing something got them ignored. Other times it got them punished. So they learned to protect themselves not by leaning into connection, but by pulling away from it. Take this example. I once worked with a client, Laura, who was dating a man who would disappear emotionally every time things started to feel serious. If she expressed a need even gently, he'd grow cold or go silent for days. She kept wondering, why does me wanting closeness make him act like I've done something wrong? What we unpacked together was that for him, intimacy was wired to unpredictability. In his past, emotional closeness meant losing control or being overwhelmed. Her warmth, though safe and genuine, felt like a trap to his nervous system. So he shut down, not because he didn't care, but because his body had been trained to equate closeness with chaos. And that's the deeper point here. Their silence is not a reflection of your worth, it's a survival response, a way they've learned to manage fear, not a way to reject love. When you understand this, you stop personalizing their withdrawal. You stop spiraling into self-doubt. You start to see their behavior through the lens of old wounds, not current failures. Now, this doesn't mean you have to tolerate emotional shutdown forever. It's not your job to fix someone else's trauma or stay in a relationship where you're constantly waiting for breadcrumbs. But it does mean you can start responding from a place of grounded clarity instead of panic. When you stop chasing, when you allow space without resentment, When you honor your own emotional reality, you create the kind of calm that quietly challenges their fear, because deep down, avoidants don't avoid you. They avoid what connection represents. And sometimes their silence isn't them saying, "I don't want this." It's them saying, without words, "This feels like too much, but I don't know how to say that without losing you." Consider this. We're about to discuss something that might feel like the opposite of what you'd expect, especially if peace and emotional safety are paramount in your relationships. Sometimes when things are going too well, an avoidantly attached person will unconsciously stir up drama or tension. You might think, why would someone ruin a good thing on purpose? But here's the twist. For many avoidants, conflict can feel safer than closeness. Not because they enjoy fighting, but because tension is familiar. It mimics the chaotic environments they may have grown up in. Environments where love and emotional chaos were tightly woven together. To someone with an avoidant attachment style, healthy, stable connection can feel foreign, even boring or suspicious. If they grew up with emotionally inconsistent caregivers, they learn that love comes with volatility. One day you're accepted, the next you're criticized or ignored. So, over time, their nervous system linked emotional intensity with emotional safety. It became the measure of connection. If things feel calm, it must not be real. If we're not arguing, maybe they don't care. I know that doesn't make logical sense, but we're not talking logic. We're talking nervous system programming. And this is where the push-pull dynamic starts to show up. Let me give you a real-life example. I worked with a client named Jenna who was trying to make things work with her ex-boyfriend. He was emotionally avoidant, and every time their relationship seemed to hit a peaceful rhythm, after a good date, a kind exchange, or a meaningful talk, he would suddenly become distant. Or worse, he'd pick a fight out of nowhere. Jenna would go into panic mode, trying to fix things, calm him down, or reassure him that she wasn't going anywhere. What she didn't realize at first was that his drama was his way of checking if she still cared. His unconscious fear was that calmness meant disconnection. So creating a little chaos became his way of testing the connection. This is why avoidants sometimes break up during the best part of the relationship, or why they withdraw after a particularly intimate moment. It's not because the moment wasn't real, it's because it was. And that closeness triggered their internal alarm system. The deeper the intimacy, the greater the fear of loss. So rather than risk being blindsided by rejection, they preemptively create distance. They create the ending before you can. Again, this doesn't mean their behavior is okay or that you have to accept emotional whiplash as part of love, but it does help you understand it. It gives you a map. So the next time they suddenly pull away or manufacture a crisis, instead of blaming yourself, you can pause and remember, this is their fear talking, not my failure. And that clarity, right there, is what gives you back your power. Because you can't control their wounds, but you can choose how you respond to them. Now let's talk about one of the most confusing behaviors you'll see with someone who has an avoidant attachment style. They distance themselves but don't really go away. Maybe they stop texting back, pull out of deep conversations, or cancel plans. But then they watch your Instagram stories, like your posts, or send a random, "Hey, hope you're well" message weeks after going silent. And you're left thinking, wait, what do they want? Are they gone or not? Here's what's really going on. Many avoidants have a hard time with closeness, but they also have a hard time with complete disconnection. That's the internal tug-of-war they live in. On one hand, intimacy feels threatening. On the other, isolation is lonely, so they find a third option, a kind of emotional limbo. They stay close by watching from afar. It's a way to maintain a sense of connection without feeling emotionally exposed. This is especially common in the digital age. Social media gives avoidant people the perfect tools to stay near you without having to actually be with you. They can see how you're doing, check if you've moved on, or simply reassure themselves that you're still there, all without engaging in real emotional risk. To them, it's like peeking through the window of a house they're too afraid to walk into. The warmth is visible, but stepping inside feels like too much. I had a client named Daniel who went through this exact situation. His ex, who ended things suddenly with very little explanation, continued to view every single one of his Instagram stories. She never responded to his last message. She didn't reach out to reconnect, but she hovered for weeks. When he finally confronted her gently, she admitted she just didn't know what to say and wasn't ready to talk, but she missed him. That's the paradox. She couldn't get close, but she couldn't fully let go either. Watching him from a distance gave her just enough closeness to soothe the longing without triggering the panic that deeper vulnerability would bring. What's important to understand is this: their distant behavior doesn't mean they don't care. It means caring has become dangerous to them. They may want to be near you, but only if it doesn't cost them emotional safety. And while that helps explain their behavior, it also highlights something crucial for you. Because you deserve a relationship that's not limited to background views and silent scrolls. You deserve presence, not just proximity. So if someone's keeping tabs on you but not showing up for you, try not to confuse their lingering attention with true availability. Yes, their silence might hold longing. Yes, their digital breadcrumbs might be a way of saying, "I still care." But care without courage doesn't build a relationship. It keeps you stuck in almost connection. And here's the hard but empowering truth: you're allowed to want more than being watched from a distance. You're allowed to ask for real engagement, because your need for consistent, reciprocal closeness isn't too much. It's the foundation of healthy love. Turning our attention now to a particularly distressing and baffling aspect of avoidant relationships: the tendency to self-sabotage just as things begin to thrive. If you've ever been in a relationship where everything seemed to be finally falling into place, communication was flowing, emotional walls were coming down, maybe you even started talking about the future, and then suddenly they ghosted, picked a fight, or ended things with little explanation, you've likely witnessed this exact defense mechanism in action. Here's the emotional truth beneath that behavior. For many avoidantly attached people, intimacy has a threshold. A point where closeness doesn't feel comforting, it starts to feel threatening. This threshold is shaped by a history of emotional inconsistency, punishment for vulnerability, and unmet needs. When someone grows up learning that closeness comes with pain, when expressing feelings gets you rejected or punished, they internalize a message: if I get too close, I'll lose control, or worse, I'll get hurt. So they cope the only way they know how, by pulling the plug before the stakes get too high. Let's break that down with a real-life story. I had a client, Sarah, who was dating a man named Adam. Things were going well, they'd been seeing each other for several months, were finally opening up emotionally, and had just come back from a weekend trip where everything felt light, connected, and hopeful. But 2 days later, Adam completely changed. He stopped initiating contact, became distant, and then out of nowhere texted her saying, "I don't think I'm ready for something serious." She was stunned. Nothing had gone wrong, so why did he shut it down? What Sarah didn't realize at the time was that their deepening intimacy had triggered Adam's internal alarm system. That weekend together pushed him past his emotional threshold. It wasn't that he didn't care. On the contrary, he cared enough that it scared him. The more real it felt, the more vulnerable he became. And in his mind, the safest move wasn't to move forward, it was to retreat before he lost control or got hurt later. This is classic avoidance sabotage. They break things off not because they want to lose you, but because they believe they eventually will. And if the end feels inevitable, their logic becomes better to end it on my terms than to be left unexpectedly. It's not conscious manipulation, it's fear management. Their self-protection kicks in the moment emotional intimacy begins to resemble something permanent, something real. And this is why it can feel like a relationship with an avoidant person is a series of almosts. Almost committed, almost open, almost in love. Because each time you reach the edge of something real, their fear hijacks the moment and tells them to run. Not because you did anything wrong, but because it was going right. So what can you do when this happens? First, don't chase them. Chasing will only reinforce their belief that intimacy comes with pressure. Second, step back and ground yourself in your truth. This wasn't rejection, it was reflex. Third, don't internalize the sabotage as a sign of your inadequacy. Their fear of connection is not proof that you're too much. It's proof that they've never had a safe container for real intimacy before. And most importantly, remember this: love that's real doesn't punish you for getting close. It doesn't crumble when things go well. It deepens. So if someone keeps walking away every time it gets good, that's not love breaking, it's fear winning. And while you can have compassion for their fear, you don't have to live inside it. You're allowed to want connection that stays when things get good, not one that runs from it. Let's bring this all together with some grounded clarity. Because if you've been in a relationship with someone who has an avoidant attachment style, you already know how painful their silence, distance, and emotional unpredictability can feel. But here's what I want you to take away from this. Avoidant silence isn't manipulation. It's often a trauma response. It's a protective reflex born from early experiences where love wasn't safe, where vulnerability led to shame, and where closeness came with confusion or loss. We covered 4 subtle but powerful signs that an avoidant person's silence might actually be a hidden cry for connection. First, we talked about how their withdrawal isn't always disinterest. It's a nervous system reacting to closeness like it's danger. Then we explored how some avoidants create conflict or drama, not to hurt you, but to feel something familiar and emotionally charged, because to them, intensity feels more real than peace. Next, we looked at how they may stay close by watching from afar, liking your posts, checking your stories, or sending low-effort messages as a way to stay connected without emotional exposure. And finally, we unpacked how they often self-sabotage when things get too good, breaking connection not because it's failing, but because it's succeeding. And that's what scares them most. Understanding these patterns doesn't mean you excuse the behavior, and it certainly doesn't mean you stay in something that hurts you. But it does mean you can stop internalizing it. Their silence isn't proof that you're too much. Their distance doesn't mean your needs are wrong, and their sabotaging behavior isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their unresolved pain. Thank you for watching this video and for giving yourself the space to understand these deeper dynamics. That tells me something powerful. You're not just looking for love, you're looking to understand it, build it, and experience it in a healthier way. And that's what secure connection is all about. If this video resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you experienced any of these signs? Which one hit the hardest for you? Drop a comment below. I read them, and your voice matters. And if you're on a journey of breaking anxious patterns, setting healthy boundaries, and learning how to stop abandoning yourself in love, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and stay tuned. I'm Jim Rohn, and every week I share tools to help you navigate love with more self-worth, clarity, and peace. Remember, you're not too much. You're just no longer available for almost connection. And that is a powerful place to stand.